Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unicorn Riot's coverage of the Kim Potter trial on the third day of jury selection. Right now, there are 9 jurors impaneled so far, and I believe that they're looking for 3 more. We might be seeing the end of jury selection today. If so, they're going to take a day off before they get to opening statements, which were slated to begin December 8th. So time is moving pretty quickly in this trial. And good morning to you all. Hope you all are doing okay on this December 2nd. This is Nico from Unicorn Riot. We are here live with the Derek Chauvin trial coverage. So if you are on the chats, might as well chime in. Let us know where you're from. If you don't know about Unicorn Riot, we're a 501c3 educational nonprofit. We have been covering police killings since our inception, and this is one of the high profile police killings. There's been a lot of police killings that we've covered that weren't very high profile, and this is definitely one of those. So again, thank you for tuning in. We try to bring you as much as we can, as with the small organization that we have. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, as I was mentioning earlier. If you like to support our work and you're financially privileged enough, check out our website, unicornriot.ninja, and click on the donate. So court should be starting very shortly here. During the breaks, we'll be showing you some footage from these last couple of days here in Minneapolis, where there's been protests outside the government center. It hasn't been as much as maybe you could say per se the Chauvin trial, but there's still been a consistent amount of folks that are out gathering, seeking justice for Daunte Wright. There was a press conference the day before the trial started. At that press conference, multiple families were speaking, and it was centered around Katie Wright. Katie Wright is Daunte's mother. She'll be testifying during this trial. And so she's been, I believe the word is sequestered. She is not able to join in to watch any of this jury selection or any of the trial until she gets on the stand. Then after she testifies, she'll be able to watch the trial. So Daunte Wright's family has 3 seats inside the courtroom. When we were covering the Chauvin trial, there was 1 seat for each, the defendant and the prosecuting team, or the defendant and the plaintiffs, I guess, maybe, the victim's family. Especially for Daunte's Wright, obviously he's the victim's family. They have an overflow room in the government center. The trial is taking place on the 18th floor of the government center downtown. So, all right, I'm looking at the chat on just Facebook right now. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And I see some folks talking about where they're from on Facebook. We got Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We got the south side of Minneapolis. We got Chicago. We got Oregon, Mankato, Minnesota, Chicago, Roseville, Minnesota, White Bear Lake. Thank you all for tuning in and chiming in. So, as we mentioned a little bit ago, jury selection, as you can see also on the screen, will be continuing. This is the 3rd day. Jury selection has been going very, very fast. Judge Regina Chu is the judge presiding over the case. A lot of people are talking about how she's very calm. She's very soothing to the ears, and people are saying that maybe she should have audio books, yoga. She should be featured on some yoga books. But some people are saying that it's some of that approach that's also helping maneuver the situation. So a little bit of background real quick on what they're going through right now is with the jury selection, they've already sent jury questionnaires out, and we'll get into that a little bit later into the broadcast. As we saw yesterday, when we were covering the trial, during one of the breaks, Dan, who was producing, brought up the jury questionnaire, and we were able to see some of the questions that they've already asked the potential jurors, and which they're specifically asking them about today. So if you want to see that, check out our website, unicornriot.ninja. See the Kim Potter graphic up on the top, and from there you'll be able to excuse me, from there you'll be able to get into the specific jury questionnaire and all the other documents from the state of Minnesota. So we will pull that up a little bit later as we maneuver through today. Again, this is December 2nd. It's the third day of jury selection, and we're waiting for the court to start. We also have in the chat Coon Rapids, Minnesota, Jasper, Canada, Dallas, Nokomis neighborhood, Minneapolis, Southside, the Netherlands, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. That is where Daunte Wright was killed. Macon, Missouri, Ohio, St. Paul. Good morning, Deidre. London, downtown Minneapolis. Thank you, Brandy, for the compliment. Miami, Minneapolis, Duluth. So that's Miami. It's quite the range of folks. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you. We are Unicorn Riot. As we've mentioned before, we try to bring context to social and environmental struggles, as well as engage and amplify the stories of struggles from the front lines. We got South Dakota also chiming in. Somebody says no picking from a hat. So the Kyle Rittenhouse trial in Wisconsin stayed over. We saw Rittenhouse was able to pick his jury out of the hat. That will not be happening in this one. That was, they went through the jury selection, they got the jurors, and then they had the alternatives. So they had all the jurors and the alternatives, and they choose who the jurors would be, as opposed to who the alternatives would be from that. From my understanding in this case, is there is going to be two alternatives. They've slated the schedule to start December 8th with opening statements. Again, that might be early. That might be too late, or that might change. Excuse me, because of how fast jury selection has been happening so far. We have Brooklyn Center chiming in again. Again, Brooklyn Center is where Daunte Wright was from and killed. Onamia was Minnesota, up north. Charleston, West Virginia. We got South Dakota. I think I mentioned that. Atlanta. Thank you all for being very kind in the chat. That is what we are here for, not to try to have you in a space where you will be feeling like you're violated. Either way, it's 9:06 and court is slated to start at 9 a.m. today, and so they are running a little bit late. Judge Regina Chu has been running a pretty good ship, as you could say. There hasn't been much discrepancies. There hasn't been much stuff that starts not on time, and so this is actually sort of peculiar, if you ask me, from these last few days. I think yesterday started even early. So again, yeah, I see also in the chat there was a discussion yesterday before trial ended. They said the judge is going to meet with the prosecutor and the prosecution, the defense teams, the legal counsels in the chambers around 8:30 to speak about different happenings. I think one of the things they were even talking about yesterday was one of the jurors was throwing up profusely, might have had a kid already. They were trying to talk about just dropping that juror. So quick, when the jurors get selected, so they send you out a juror questionnaire. That juror questionnaire gets answered. People answer that, send it back. Then the Hennepin County Government Center and its staff and other legal representatives look at the specific answers. They choose. The defense team looks at it. The prosecution teams looks at it. They try to strike potential jurors before they even come, to not waste their time, because they already decided based off their answers that they would or wouldn't want them on their team. So then by the time the folks get there, they get up into maybe the 16th or 20th floor, and they wait on that floor for hours and days. There's a pool of maybe 10 or 20 that get brought into the courtroom. That's when the judge specifically talks to them. She'll run them down what's happening in the case. She'll bring up questions. She'll ask them to raise their hand for specific things. And from there, we will end up seeing the judge will tell everybody to leave the room, and then from then maybe one or two people will stay, or one juror will stay. They'll ask that juror questions. They'll go back and forth. The defense has the questions first after the judge. The judge asks questions, then the defense, and then the prosecution. Then preemptory strikes are on each side, and the strike for cause is also a thing, so they can get rid of jurors. Preemptory strike means you're actually wasting a strike. And if you get them struck for cause, then that means that the judge is letting them go. So there's a couple nuances when it comes to this jury selection process and just even trials. Me personally, I'm learning as well as maybe you are as watching these. These haven't been televised. These haven't been a thing where we've had full access to murder trials, especially police murder trials, and something that's trying to hold the police accountable for some of the actions that they've done. And so to have these last few, like, really high profile police killing cases actually televised has been very eye-opening, I think, for me, specifically to be able to watch some of the what they call the criminal justice system at work. And so it's been a very interesting situation, I'm sure, for you all as well. So we got Louisville also out here. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you. So it is 9:10. The judge and the defense and the prosecution might be in the chambers discussing things. In the meantime, I'm going to possibly queue you up something to watch, because right now we are not able to watch anything, as we are watching The Seal of Minnesota in the background. That is where the judge sort of is. That camera location right there is going, it'll pan back and then off to the right. The judge will be off to the right side of that. We'll be able to start see people moving when they start moving. Alright, well, what we're going to do is play some of this press conference that happened on Monday. While we're playing it, we will keep the screen very close to us and switch over as soon as court starts. Right now, what you are about to witness is a press conference that happened at the Aloft Hotel, organized by Toshira Garraway. Toshira is the founder of Families Supporting Families Against Police Violence. She lost her fiance about 12 years ago. She says that he was beat to death by the St. Paul police and thrown in the trash can. He ended up in a recycling center in Inver Grove Heights in 2009, I believe, after an encounter with St. Paul police. So Toshira has actually, for the last few years, been supporting families continuously who are going through the grave ills of dealing with police terror and the police violence that they've been bestowed upon their family. We will play this. There is about 5 or 6 families. We'll come back to it after, if we, once court starts, we'll play this. We'll come back to it once court starts after that. When court starts, we will promptly close the stream down, close the press conference down, and bring you right back. So here it is.
My name is Toshira Garraway. I am the founder of Families Supporting Families Against Police Violence. I am also the fiance and the mother of Justin Tigan's now 14-year-old son. I stand here today in solidarity with Katie Wright, the mother of Daunte Wright. We are here today as families that have lost loved ones at the hands of law enforcement here in the state of Minnesota. We have about 8 families that is standing here today in solidarity with the Wright family, demanding justice for Daunte Wright, as well as all of the other families that led up to Daunte Wright. We know that there have been cover-up after cover-up after cover-up here in the state of Minnesota. Justin Tigan's murder was a cover-up. All of these other murders, Jeffrey Smith, we have here today the family. We have Courtney Williams' family. We have Hardell Sherrill, and we have the significant other of George Floyd. But we know that there was many other cover-ups that led up to Daunte. And had these cover-ups have not happened at the hands of the BCA and Drew Evans, we would not be here today standing here for Daunte Wright. So we are asking and demanding that Kim Potter be held to the highest extent of the law, and we are also demanding that they stop all the cover-ups that are happening behind the scenes. I also want to mention today that the head of the BCA, Drew Evans, did let the chief of police know in Brooklyn Center that he did not think that it was right that he let the videos free for Daunte Wright, for the public and the family to get to know the truth about what really happened to Daunte Wright. So there was no reason why those videos should not be released. That is the only reason that we got the transparency that we got, because those videos were released. But we know for many other families that did not happen. So that's why we are standing here today in solidarity as families, demanding justice for Daunte Wright and all stolen lives. We will now have words from the mother of Daunte Wright, Katie Wright. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Katie Wright. I am Daunte Wright's mom. I want to first and foremost just thank everybody for the support on April 11th all the way up until today going forward. Everybody who's been there for us, standing with us on one of the worst days of our life, on one of the worst months going forward of our lives. So we really thank you and we appreciate this. With the upcoming trial coming tomorrow, I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of our family.
We will now call forward the attorney for the Wright family, Jeff Storms.
Thank you, Tashira. You know, we all thought it was really important to be here today because of the history in this state of not holding officers accountable. Individuals who would come to my office, folks like the folks who are standing up here today, one of the first things I would often tell them is, don't hold out hope that there's going to be a criminal prosecution, because criminal justice just wasn't something that families ever saw in this state. Just to have this trial is an extraordinary amount, or an extraordinary step towards justice that so many of these other grieving families have never experienced. You know, they didn't experience a legitimate investigation, let alone a prosecution. And I know Tashira mentioned a number of the families who are up here with us today. I have families in my own past that I've worked with, such as the family of David Smith. And David died in Minneapolis in almost an identical way to George Floyd, and his death was supposed to stop what happened to George. And there was no real investigation into the officers in that case. And I talk to that family all the time, and I think what's really hard for anyone in the public to grasp is just the deep level of grieving and trauma continues to pour upon these families when they know there wasn't at least a legitimate investigation and legitimate attempts towards justice for their loved one. So we are very appreciative, but this is only a first step, the prosecution. we now need a conviction. And Minnesota is going to be tested with respect to its values and ethics. You know, a couple of years ago, we had a black officer who killed a white woman, and he was held greatly accountable when he said he shot someone and it was an accident. Now we're going to be faced with very similar circumstances, and the question is, are we prepared to hold a white officer accountable for killing a young black man when he says, or when she says, it was an accident, which obviously we dispute, and the Attorney General's office has done an excellent job of laying out why this is not some mere accident. So we're going to learn a lot about ourselves. We're going to watch jury selection and see, do the defendants do what we saw in the Ahmaud Arbery trial? Are they going to try to have the whitest jury possible? But even if that's the case, if there is a white jury, is a Minnesota white jury prepared to hold a white officer accountable and under these circumstances? It's going to tell a lot of us about where we stand as a state. But what you're staring at is a lot of really, really important history, which is why I thought it was important to be here, because the fight that these families have had to get any level of justice and accountability has helped us move the ball forward even further. We've now had the conviction of Derek Chauvin. We're going to have a prosecution in this case. And I just think everyone can't discount how important the work of all these families behind us have helped everyone get to that point. So we thank you all for being here today. And I do just want to point out, if there are questions at the end, you know, Katie is a fact witness in the trial, so she's not going to be doing any Q&A. If there are questions, I'll do my best to try to answer them at the end, but we'd ask you to respect the fact that you know, Katie very much wants to maintain the integrity of the criminal process. Thank you.
We will now call forward some of the families that are here to stand in solidarity with Katie to demand justice for Daunte Wright. I will call forward the mother of Courtney Williams, Tahisha Williams.
Hello. My son was killed by the Minneapolis Police Department 17 years ago, October 24th, 2004. No justice has been anything for me, but I come here today and stand in solidarity with Katie for everything, and for everything that she's going through, I have been through. So, thank you.
I will call for the mother of Hardell Cheryl, Delcia Perry.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Delcia Perry, the mother of Hardell Cheryl and the founder of Be Their Voices. And of course, I had to come and stand in solidarity with Katie and her family. And we are expecting justice. We are not asking for it. We are demanding it. As you all know, it has been over 3 years since my son was medically neglected and left to die in a jail cell. And we still are waiting for the FBI to come in and do whatever they need to do so that we can get the justice that we deserve. No amount of money will replace our children. We're not seeking money per se. It will help, of course.
Hi, I'm Charles Caldwell, Northside resident artist participating in the historical Black Lives Matter mural. This is a one-day project, started out at 10 o'clock this morning. Finishing deadline was 5 o'clock.
Good evening, everybody. We are here today to celebrate the life of Daunte Wright, who we all know should be here.
Apologies for that little ending. Hitting the wrong button over here. So we are still waiting as trial is set to begin on day 3 of the jury selection. We'll get back to that specific play, to that specific press conference that we were playing. Apologies again for abruptly switching it and clicking it over. I did see real quick the folks were talking a little bit in the chat about Cortez Rice being arrested. I do not know what happened to that, but we do know that there was specific action outside of the judge's house. Originally, this trial was slated to not be televised. There was rulings, there was motions by the state to have it televised, there was motions to have it not televised by the prosecution. From there, it actually turned into media coalitions getting together and pushing the judge to allow camera, video, and audio coverage of the trial. There was a ruling in, I think, August by the judge who said, no, we're not going to allow cameras. That was changed. Before that was changed, officially, there was actually a protest outside of the residence of the judge that happened November 6th last month. At that protest, there was nobody was arrested. There was no violence. It was very peaceful. It was contentious in the fact that the judge lives in a more well-to-do, I should say, or a little complexes around that area that are more white and elder. And a lot of those residents in that area had problems with people calling out for justice and calling out for the trial to be filmed. From there, it was very short action. It was about 30 minutes to an hour. It was evening time. And from it being the evening time, they were done by 6 p.m. We're going to play a little clip of that as we wait. Again, we are waiting for the Day 3 of the jury selection to start in the Kim Potter trial. 9 jurors have been impaneled. It is 9:25. They are 25 minutes late for court. But here we go. We're going to show that video later. Court should start in a moment.
Oh, sorry. For some reason. Just got magic hands. Every time you touch something, it works. Okay, is counsel ready for the jury panel? All right. Okay, please be seated. All right, good morning, members of the jury panel. I'm Regina Chu, and I'll be the presiding judge in this trial. I want to start out by saying thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for interrupting your normal routine. Thank you for fulfilling such an important civic obligation. These are, of course, not normal times. These are extremely trying times. So it's with extra heartfelt appreciation from the entire judicial system that we say thank you for responding to your jury summonses. Upholding the rights that we cherish, the right to a trial by jury and the right to a speedy trial, are constitutional rights that are the very foundation of our democracy. You validate these constitutional rights by appearing today and by proving your willingness to serve. You jurors are our heroes. You are ordinary people who are called to do extraordinary work to make sure that our justice system keeps moving, even in the midst of a pandemic. Not all of us can serve in the military, but what we all can do is do our civic duty by serving as jurors. Our judicial system would not work without good citizens like you. I'm again saying thank you because I can't thank you enough. Now, as you know, this is a criminal case in which the state of Minnesota has charged the defendant, Kimberly Potter, with the following charges. Count 1 is first-degree manslaughter predicated on reckless use or handling of a firearm, and that count alleges that on or about April 11, 2021, in Brooklyn Center, Hennepin County, state of Minnesota, defendant Kimberly Ann Potter caused the death of Daunte Demetrius Wright while committing the misdemeanor offense of reckless handling or use of a firearm so as to endanger the safety of another with such force or violence that death or great bodily harm to any person was reasonably foreseeable. Count 2 alleges second-degree manslaughter, and that count alleges that on or about April 11, 2021, in Brooklyn Center, Hennepin County, Minnesota, defendant Kimberly Ann Potter caused the death of Daunte Demetrius Wright by her culpable negligence, whereby Kimberly Potter created an unreasonable risk and consciously took a chance of causing death or great bodily harm to Daunte Demetrius Wright while using or possessing a firearm. The defendant has pleaded not guilty. That plea denies the charges and places upon the state of Minnesota the burden of proving defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The state is represented by Attorney General Keith Ellison, Mr. Matt Frank, Ms. Erin Eldridge, and Mr. Josh Larson. The defendant is represented by Mr. Earl Gray and Mr. Paul Ng and Ms. Amanda Montgomery. I want to introduce to you other people that will play critical roles in this case. First of all, I have 2 clerks that will be assisting with all administrative matters. First of all, my law clerk, Mr. Zach Kramer, and my judicial clerk, Ms. Jessica Bauer. If something should come up of a personal nature and you need to get a message to me, please let my staff know and they'll make sure I find out, okay? Seated in front of me is Carly Davis. She is a certified court reporter and she's responsible for taking down all the testimony and keeping a formal record of the trial. That means when you respond to questions, you must speak loudly and clearly so our court reporter can make an accurate record. If your answer is yes or no, you have to indicate that orally instead of shaking your head, because that doesn't come out on the record. And please don't say uh-huh or uh-uh, because you can't tell the difference between the two. A couple of things before we get started on jury selection. First of all, masks are required at all times when you're in the courtroom and in the courthouse generally. The only time that you'll be allowed to remove your mask is when you're behind plexiglass in the witness stand, because what's going to happen is that when you're questioned, you will be questioned in the witness stand. There's going to be, let me give you an overview of what voir dire is going to look like. Voir dire is just what lawyers call jury selection. First of all, I'm going to be asking you some group questions, and I'll ask you to raise your hand, or not raise your hand. The group questions, you do not have to say anything. In fact, you should not say anything. You should just raise your hand. Then, as I indicated before, I'll question you individually. The other panel members will be in the waiting room. The juror will come up and sit in the witness box. I'll do follow-up questions on the answers to your questionnaire, and the attorneys will have an opportunity to ask questions if they have any as well. So, that's what it's going to look like. All right. Just to give you some warning, it's kind of hard to control the temperature in this courtroom, so you might want to dress in layers in case it's chilly in some parts of the courtroom as opposed to others. You may bring something to drink with you into the courtroom as long as it has a cap on it. A couple of things about delays. I try to take care of all legal matters before you come in the morning and after you leave in the afternoon. But sometimes things can't be anticipated. And I want to apologize in advance should the lawyers and I have to confer on legal matters and that you'll be waiting. Please be assured that we make every effort to not waste your time, but we want to make sure that only the proper evidence is submitted to you for consideration in rendering your verdict. A lot of those issues have been dealt with pre-trial, but things may pop up during trial, so I hope you understand. Okay, I'm going to give you some preliminary instructions. There are rules of law that apply in a criminal case. A complaint is not evidence. It creates no inference or presumption of guilt. No member of the jury should in any way be prejudiced against the defendant because a complaint has been filed against her or because she is on trial. The defendant is presumed innocent. In order for you to find the defendant guilty, the state must prove guilt. The defendant does not have to prove her innocence. The presumption of innocence abides and remains with the defendant unless and until the state has proven her guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by evidence admitted in this trial. A common misperception of the American justice system is that the jury determines whether the accused person is guilty or innocent. That is not what American jurors do in criminal cases. There is no such thing as an innocent verdict in American criminal law. The jury's verdict is either guilty or not guilty. Guilty means proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Not guilty means not proved beyond a reasonable doubt. To ensure both the defendant and the state receive a fair trial by an impartial jury, it'll be necessary for me and the attorneys to ask you some questions. Remember that you will be under oath when you answer our questions and that you must answer truthfully. The questioning is a very important part of the process. The reason for that is that all of us hold personal opinions and all of us have had life experiences. We wouldn't be human if that wasn't the case. The purpose of jury selection is to try to determine whether or not you hold certain opinions so strongly, or if something has happened to you or someone near and dear to you that would make it difficult, if not impossible, for you to be a fair and impartial juror. Put differently, the personal opinions or life experiences would so cloud your ability to listen to the evidence and render a decision based on the evidence alone. Please don't take offense to any of the questions that are asked. None of us wishes to pry into your personal affairs. Our sole purpose and our obligation is to ensure that the jurors who decide this case are neutral, open-minded, and fair. Neutral means that before you hear all the evidence, you are not leaning one way or the other on the question of whether the state has proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Open-minded means that you're willing to listen and consider all the evidence. And fair means that you will base your verdict on the evidence in the case and not on anything that is not presented in this case. We want you to bring your common sense, of course, into the jury room, but your verdict must be based on the evidence you hear during the trial. Your obligation is to honestly answer the questions and tell us of anything, even if you're not directly asked, that might affect your ability to be neutral, open-minded, and fair. Now, some of you that will be questioned will be excused from the panel, and I hope you don't take offense with that. It doesn't necessarily mean that anyone thinks that you're not a fair person. At this point, panel members, I'll ask that you all stand up and raise your right hand while Mr. Kramer administers your oath.
Do you affirm under penalty of perjury that you will truthfully answer all questions about your qualifications to serve as a juror? If so, please say I do.
Okay, thank you. Please sit down. All right, I'm going to start out with the group questions. So no verbal response is necessary. If you would just raise your hand when I indicate. Do any of you have any serious concerns about your health if you were to serve as a juror in this case? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, no hands are raised. Does anyone have trouble understanding or hearing what I am saying? Please raise your hand. No hands are raised. Our system of law presumes the defendant innocent of the charges against her unless and until she has been proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The burden of proof is on the state. The defendant does not have to prove her innocence, and she is presumed innocent. Do you accept the principle that the defendant is presumed innocent and that the state has a burden of proof? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, let me repeat the question. Do you accept the principle that the defendant is presumed innocent and that the state has a burden of proof? If you agree with that principle, please raise your hand. I believe all hands are raised. If you serve as a juror, I will instruct you on the law. Let me go back to the burden of proof again. Does anyone disagree with the principle that the defendant is presumed innocent and the state has a burden of proof? If you disagree with that, please raise your hand. Okay, no hands are raised. If you serve as a juror, I'll instruct you as to the law that you should apply. You must follow the law even if you believe the law is or should be different. If you are willing to follow the law, please raise your hand. All hands are raised. If you are chosen as a juror, I will instruct you that proof beyond a reasonable doubt is such proof as ordinarily prudent men and women would act upon in their most important affairs. A reasonable doubt is a doubt based upon reason and common sense. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean beyond all possibility of doubt. Does anyone disagree with this principle of law? If so, raise your hand. No hands are raised. In arriving at your verdict, if you sit as a juror, the subject of penalty or punishment is not to be discussed or considered by you. This is a matter that lies solely with the court within the limits prescribed by law. The subject of penalty or punishment must not in any way affect your decision as to whether or not the state has proven the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you willing to follow this instruction? If so, please raise your hand. All hands are raised. Under our system of justice, the jury must decide the case solely on the evidence produced in court and the law that the judge instructs, and not because of any bias, passion, prejudice, or sympathy. Would you be able to follow this principle of law? If so, please raise your hand. Okay. And, sir, you're juror number 33. Thank you. There will be police officers who will testify in this case, as well as other witnesses. I'm going to give you some guidelines in determining whether a witness is believable or not believable, but it's generally a matter of common sense. Things to look for, though, are how did the witness appear? Did he or she seem honest and sincere? Will the witness gain or lose if the case is decided a certain way? Was the witness's testimony consistent with other evidence in the case? And what is the witness's relationship to the parties? Would you be able to use these guidelines in deciding the credibility of a police officer just as you would any other witness? If so, please raise your hand. All hands are raised. Is there anyone here who would believe the testimony of a police officer just because he or she is in law enforcement? If so, please raise your hand. No hands are raised. Is there anyone here who would totally discount the testimony of a police officer just because of his or her position? No hands are raised. All right, do any of you know the lawyers in this case? Do any of you know the defendant? No hands are raised. Okay. You were given a list of possible witnesses earlier. They may not all testify. Do any of you know any of the witnesses on the list? And what I'd like you to do is raise your hand even if you're not sure. All right, no hands are raised. All right. We expect to start opening statements by December 8th. It may be earlier, but our best estimate right now is that we will start on December 8th. We anticipate to be being finished before Christmas Eve. That's our best estimate. Don't be concerned if we do not finish by Christmas Eve. I intend to take Christmas Eve and that weekend off and start the following Monday, December 27th, if we're not done. So you won't be missing Christmas Eve or Christmas with your family and friends. If you're chosen as a juror, the trial will start at 9 o'clock. It'll go until 4:30 or 5. There'll be a 20-minute break in the morning and a 20-minute break in the afternoon, and we do take a lunch break for an hour. So that basically is what the schedule will look like if you're chosen as a juror. Please remember while court is in recess that you should not talk to anyone involved in this case, nor should you discuss the case among yourselves. During the recess, you might see the attorneys or the parties in the hallways. Don't take offense if they don't stop and talk to you. Everyone involved in the case has been ordered to have no contact or communication with any member of the jury panel, and any violation of that rule could jeopardize the trial, and that prohibition will continue until a verdict has been rendered. Okay, at this point, I'm going to do individual voir dire. So I would like juror number 33 to stay in the courtroom, and if the other panel members will follow the deputy to your waiting room. Thank you. Okay, Mr. 33, will you please come up here and take a seat right next to me? And after you take a seat, will you please remove your mask? How are you doing today? Okay. All right. I wanted to circle back and ask you a question when you didn't raise your hand. Okay, the jury's verdict has to be based on the evidence alone that is presented in the case. And if you're chosen as a juror, you can't let passion, prejudice, bias, or sympathy affect your decision as to whether or not the state has proved the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. And you didn't raise your hand stating that you would follow that instruction. Can you tell me what your thoughts are on that issue?
I just think in an ideal world, it would be, that's what you strive for, but just based on who I am, I'm just trying to be as honest with you as I possibly could. And I have strong feelings about this case,
Okay. And tell me about your strong feelings.
When I see the victim, I see a lot of, the victim looks a lot like my students who I teach. I can't, it's really hard to separate that. I've been teaching for a long time, and I think that's a big part of it. So. Okay.
So you would be thinking about your student, do you think, or your students that
yes, probably, yeah.
At the time, and associating them with Mr. Wright?
Yeah, I would rather not, but I think it's really difficult separation. So.
Do you think that that sympathy, I mean, I think it's natural to be sympathetic. And when a young person dies, do you think that that would prevent you from really looking at the evidence and rendering a decision based solely on the evidence?
I have to be honest. I don't know. I would be the best pick. I wish I could. I'd love to do jury duty, but
you can't set that aside then.
if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't know if I can. That's
okay.
I mean, that's just trying to be as honest as I can. So.
All right. So that would affect whether or not how you looked at the case and what your decision would be on whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Counsel, stand by. All right, Mr. Frank.
Juror 33, certainly do appreciate your candor with the court and your answers today. You know, in filling out the jury questionnaire, which I recognize was some time ago, you know, one of the questions you were asked is that same question. You know, could you set aside biases and interests and prejudices and be a fair and impartial juror? Do you remember your answer?
Well, I remember filling out the questionnaire in the summertime, and I probably said I probably could.
Yeah, you wrote yes.
Yeah. Now, being in session in school for, you know, since the beginning of September, I think that has influenced a lot.
And you know, you have to be the one to let us know, right? I mean,
right.
Not judging you or anything in that nature. All we ask are for honest answers, right. Certainly. And yet, you know, it seems in your questionnaire you were pretty resolute, right? When you just wrote yes to that answer. And yet, you know, what the judge is asking you is, it's okay for you to have those. In fact, in one of your answers, you recognize that jurors sometimes have biases, right? You had a very insightful answer about the jury system, right? But you sound like a person who recognizes that biases, people have them. And that is probably, would you agree, a key to not letting biases infect decisions?
Yeah.
So, you know, what we're asking you to do is, as a juror, recognize you have those biases and don't let them affect the decisions you make based on evidence. You would know that those biases are not evidence, right? So that's the fundamental question. That's why I asked for the opportunity to ask you the question that way. So as you sit here, can you answer that question for me? Can you recognize your biases, that they're not evidence, and just decide the case on what goes on here in the courtroom?
I don't know if I'm able to separate that to where I'm at right now. You know, when I answered that in the summertime, maybe I was a little bit more confident in my ability. And I'm just trying to be honest to protect the integrity of the trial. So,
anything that you think I should know about you to understand that answer better? Does that question make?
No, it's just, I've been teaching in a very, urban setting for a long time, and I do that because I love it, and I hear a lot of stories from my students and interactions, and I think that has influenced my view on a lot of things. So,
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for being honest about this. And you do great work. I really admire teachers. So have a wonderful rest of the day, and you're done with jury duty. Okay, you can go home if you want to. All right, thank you. Deputy, could we have a moment before? Okay, just for the record, I think it's obvious why this juror was dismissed for cause. Both sides agreed. All right, I just want to make sure that, are we missing one juror? Is 41 here now? Okay.
Well, there's 41.
So we just got news that 41 has postponed.
Oh,
Just in
okay.
the last 5 minutes, probably.
Yeah, 41, yeah, they're entitled to postpone at any time. So there is no 41. Okay, so just so everybody's on board, it's going to be 35, 39, 40, and 44.
Judge, 44 is not here either.
Oh, 44 is not here.
44 did not appear this morning.
Okay. They're still trying to get a hold of him or her, right? Okay. Okay, is counsel ready for the next juror? That would be number 35. Good morning.
Good morning.
Juror number 35. Okay, you may remove your mask. Okay, just a couple follow-up questions on your questionnaire. Thank you for filling it out for us. Okay, in response to one of the questions, you indicated that you had a somewhat negative general impression of Defendant Kimberly Potter, and you had a somewhat positive general impression of Daunte Wright. I guess my question to you is, would you, notwithstanding any general feelings that you had about the parties here, or Mr. Wright and Ms. Potter, would you be able to listen to the evidence and base your decision solely on the evidence that's presented in this case and the law that I give to you?
Yes, I would.
Okay. You also stated that you've carried signs, you've been involved in demonstrations, and that you've carried signs including Black Lives Matter, Justice for Breonna Taylor, and Justice for Daunte Wright. Okay. Is that going to interfere with your ability to be objective and take a look at the evidence and decide the case based solely on that evidence? Or is that going to cloud your judgment and make you automatically believe that the defendant is guilty?
To your first question, no, I don't think it will cloud my judgment. I do believe in innocent until proven guilty. I do have... Can I move it more towards
Yes.
me? Okay. Thank you. Is that better? Okay. Should I repeat?
Yeah, why don't you start over?
Okay.
Okay.
I do not think that would cloud my judgment, as I do believe in the practice of innocent before guilty, or innocent until proven guilty.
All right. So as you sit here today, you can give Kim Potter the presumption of innocence.
Yes, I can.
And you can make or abide by my instruction that the state has to prove her guilty of any charge beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I have a question. Is
Yes.
that all right? I have a flight on December 20th that I'm going on a trip with my family until January 7th. So I'm not sure what that means in this
Okay.
case.
Are these prepaid tickets?
They are.
Okay. And I suppose you haven't talked to your family about delaying the trip?
I have not. No.
Okay. So you're not sure whether or not they would agree to delay the trip because you're on jury duty?
They would not, as the timing of the trip is very specific due to some of my family members' jobs.
Okay. If the parties chose you as a juror, could you listen to the evidence and concentrate on the evidence, notwithstanding the fact that your family's on vacation?
I would find that difficult.
Okay. So you would find it difficult to concentrate on what's going on in the courtroom?
Yes.
Why?
Because this is a trip that has been postponed since before COVID, and it's to visit my brother who lives elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know about that. All right. Could we have sidebar, please? Okay, the dates that your family has planned this trip is December 20 to what?
January 7th.
All right. If we didn't get done, I mean, we expect to be done. If we didn't get done, would you be able to join your family later?
I would not due to the price of tickets.
You what?
I would not due to the price of tickets.
Okay. All right. Sidebar, please. Okay. You're excused from the jury.
Okay.
All right, and I hope you have a great trip. You
Thank
probably have not been able to take trips for a while, right? And you were really looking forward to this. All right, have
Thank
a
you.
great time.
Sorry
okay?
about that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, we are. Oh, wait. We're not yet, Deputy. Okay, let me make a record first. All right. I decided to dismiss the juror for cause because of her trip. This is over the state's objection. And I don't know if either party wants to put anything on the record. Okay. I did that because, it was her prepaid trip. It looks like during COVID, no one's been able to travel. Her family is going over the holidays. And she also indicated that if she were forced to stay, she wouldn't be able to concentrate on the evidence. Okay. Now next juror is number 39. Okay, thank you, Deputy. I think we're ready. Hello, juror number 39. Please have a seat right next to me. And you may remove your mask. Okay. Oh, you can take your mask off.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Just a couple of follow-up questions on the answers to the questionnaire. Thank you for filling it out. I know it was a lengthy questionnaire. The first question was, What do you know about this case from media reports? Do you know anything, or have you heard anything? Pardon?
I don't know anything about this case except watching seeing the news, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you learn about this case from the news?
The incident when they were showing over the TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you see?
I just saw what was happening.
You saw the video?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that, how many times have you watched the video?
I'm not sure exactly, but I saw a couple of times, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You stated that you had a somewhat negative general impression of Kimberly Potter. Can you tell me why you feel that way?
Pardon again?
My question was, you stated on your questionnaire, you checked the box that you had a somewhat negative general impression of Kimberly Potter. Can you tell me why you feel that way?
I'm not sure about what I put there, but basically it was just, if I remember well what I wrote over there. Yeah.
Well, why don't you just tell me, what's your general impression of the defendant? Or do you have one?
Except that I think what I wrote there was just like I'm not sure how the case and what was the purpose of the person, and my impression was just maybe it was very much better to make sure that, you know, to consider in a positive way, like when you handle such cases.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand what you said. I mean, do you have any general impressions of the defendant? From watching the video, you stated that you watched the video?
As I said, I'm not sure what was the purpose behind and how the incident take place, but by looking at it, something comes to your mind quickly, and that is it would have been better if being taken more necessary, consideration before the actions take place.
Okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
When I was asking group questions, I asked the question about the burden of proof. And my question was that our system of justice presumes the defendant innocent of the charges against her. Do you agree with that? I mean, if I instructed you, if you were a juror, and I instructed you that the state has a burden of proving the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, would you be able to follow that?
Of course, because the judge is somebody who started the whole case and investigated the whole case, and studied thoroughly. So
okay.
Yeah, whatever.
So you accept that principle. Yeah. All right. And you will require the state of Minnesota to produce evidence beyond a reasonable doubt before you would find that the defendant is guilty, correct?
Yeah.
All right. And as she sits here today, can you give her the presumption of innocence? Can you just presume she's innocent right now as you sit here today?
As I said, the judge is. I don't have knowledge about that, and
Okay.
I never.
Yeah. So you don't know anything yet?
I don't know anything
So
about it.
you can presume she's innocent right now, right?
Until the judge is proven. I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know much about that.
Oh, I see that you're a teacher. Okay. What grade do you teach?
For now, I'm not teaching anymore.
Okay, you're not. You're on sabbatical or something, huh? Okay. Now, you said that your job will make it difficult for you to serve. Can you explain your answer to that? I mean, I guess the question was, our best prediction is that we'll start the case on December 8th, and we expect to be finished before Christmas Eve. The question was, is there any significant hardship or reason why you cannot serve during this period of time?
Time availability is the one.
Yeah, I mean, is there any reason you can't serve as a juror?
Yeah.
Because of some personal reason?
Yes, and again, I haven't read anything about this case as well, and that was second reason. I mean, when I have to give any kind of outcome, I like to answer what I know, but concerning to this case, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, read.
But will you be able to serve if you were chosen?
Besides my time, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you can, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Unless.
I think what you're, please correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but you've never served on a jury before,
yes,
right?
This is my first time. That's why.
You know, to tell you the truth, I mean, most of the people that we've talked to haven't been on a jury before.
Okay. Yeah.
So a lot of people in the group that we're asking questions of are in the same position as you are, okay? So don't feel that just because you've never served on a jury, you wouldn't be a good juror. In fact, what we're looking for is jurors that will be fair to both sides. Jurors that will keep an open mind and listen to all the evidence before making a decision as to whether or not the state has proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay? So not knowing anything about the case is a good thing, okay? Because you should only base your decision on the evidence that you hear in court.
Yes.
And not on anything that isn't presented in court. Do you think you could do that?
Yes, but if anything happen around the way, then I will let you know.
Okay.
I mean, like.
No, is there, we expect to start December 8th or maybe a day or two sooner, and we should be done by before Christmas Eve. Is there anything between December 8th and December 23rd that is a hardship for you or would prevent you from serving during that period of time?
I haven't decided now, but I had a trip on my mind.
You have what?
To go one trip on my head, I just think it, but I haven't decided. I haven't booked the ticket.
Okay, well, don't.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you're chosen as a juror, you shouldn't book any trips. Okay, can you refrain from booking any trips until it's determined whether or not you're going to be a juror?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing is that when you come to the language, also.
Okay.
English is my second language. It's not my first language.
Okay, what's your first language?
My first language, I speak a couple of languages, but my best language is Somali.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand, yes.
Okay.
I do understand.
Do you have any concerns about understanding the evidence if you were chosen as a juror?
Yeah, I do understand most of the words, but when you come to some terms, like low terms are different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Up to this point, have you been able to understand?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I do understand.
Do you think that your understanding of English will be sufficient to allow you to sit as a juror?
I do communicate everywhere, but as I said,
okay,
some words I have to be careful, you know.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you had a question about what something meant, would you, and you were chosen as a juror, and you were in the jury room, would you feel comfortable asking other jurors what a particular word meant?
Yeah, I can ask.
Okay.
I can ask, yeah.
All right. So I just want to make sure you're comfortable too, and that you feel that you can understand what will be going on when the trial starts. Are you comfortable with your English understanding to sit as a juror?
To set any standard, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, counsel? The attorneys get a chance to ask you some questions.
Oh, okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, I would like to follow up with you on the language question. I had a hard time understanding a couple things you said. So, how long have you been in the country here, in the United States?
Around 10 years, yeah.
I'm sorry?
10 years.
10 years? And when you came here, were you did you speak English at all?
Yeah, whatever I know, I knew. Now, I never studied English in here.
So I'm hearing you right. You didn't know a word, but then you've learned it over the last 10 years. Is that right?
No, I knew English when I came here.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever I know now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, when Judge Chu was asking you questions as you sat there, do you remember those questions?
Some of them, yeah.
Well, what I wanted to ask you about is that to some of the questions, I noticed that you raised your hand slowly after watching the other jurors raise their hands. Do you remember doing that?
Yeah.
And were you kind of following their lead in terms of the correct answer to answer? Or were you hesitant? Or tell me what was your thought process?
As I said, because this is the law matters, and I was very much careful to what I understand. So I didn't know whether I'm allowed to ask the judge to repeat that word, but I was taking my time to understand.
Okay. Do you remember filling out this questionnaire? Do you remember doing this?
Yes.
Did anyone help you fill out this questionnaire? Did you work on it with anybody else?
No.
Did anyone read this to you, for example?
No.
Are you right or left-handed? I'm just curious.
No.
The question is, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Right-handed?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when Judge Chu was asking you about your impression of Officer Potter, I couldn't quite hear your answer. It may be my hearing, too. You're talking a little too fast for me. But you checked the somewhat negative check mark for her. And I wanted to know what your answer was because I couldn't hear it the first time. Why did you check somewhat negative here on the form, if you recall even doing that?
You mean why I mark it wrongly?
Yeah.
Unless I see.
Well, here's we're trying to do social distancing here. So I represent to you that this is your questionnaire for Juror 39.
Okay.
I represent to you, the question was this: from what you have seen, read, or heard, do you have a general impression of Defendant Kimberly Potter? Okay, that was the question.
Okay.
And then there's a check mark here, and you checked somewhat negative. Okay, so you had.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember now.
Okay.
As I said now.
Now go really slow for me.
Okay. Yeah, I was answering to the other judge now. I was saying now, when the case was handling, I would like if, I don't know what was the purpose, what was the idea behind, but I was willing or wanted at that moment to be taken more careful, to handle the case.
What was your last phrase? To take more, to take more careful. What did you say? Give me the last 4 words, because I couldn't hear you.
I mean, when the case was handling, to be handle it in a careful way, rather than using what happened now. That's the reason why I marked it.
Are you saying that you didn't feel as if the case was handled by Officer Potter in a careful way? Is that what you're saying? Help me with that.
If you remember, my first word was, I didn't know what was the purpose, what was happening, what was, when you're charging, when you're looking and when you are there, it's different stories. So I was saying, many ways of handling it could be taken more careful. If the thing is, I'm not sure how it happened, the case.
Okay. So are you saying that she could have been more careful? Is that why? That's why you're somewhat negative about it.
Yeah, that was the thing.
And why do you say she should have been more careful?
I mean, we take care always when we are dealing with human being life, and that was why I said so.
Well, do you understand the trial, if you're picked, is about what happened?
Yeah.
And part of that was what she was thinking about and why she did certain things. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
So the issue of carefulness is something that the jury decides.
Yeah.
After the case is presented. You understand that?
Okay. Yeah. That's what I said too. Because I'm not here to judge, but I'm just answering your question, what you said. Yeah.
And you indicated that about Daunte Wright, that you had a neutral impression. Do you remember filling this out for Daunte Wright? Let me read you the question, okay? The question was, from what you have seen, read, or heard, do you have a general impression of Daunte Wright? And you checked neutral. Do you remember checking that?
Yeah, as I said, because according to what I believe, my faith involves here too. When I'm charging, I have to have evidence, and I don't have evidence in this case. Whatever.
Okay.
So that's why I say, at the moment, I'm not there to charge, because even my beliefs cannot allow me to charge somebody without having evidence.
So you checked neutral because you didn't really know what he did.
Yeah, I didn't know none of them what was the case. Yeah.
And according to your questionnaire, you saw the tape about 2 to 3 times. Do you recall filling it out the form that way?
But come again?
That you saw the video 2 to 3 times?
Oh yeah.
Where did you see that?
I think it was the news I watch most of the time, like in the house.
Do you remember what channel you were watching? By chance?
Yeah, I think it was CNN, and the other one just local one. I don't know.
Where do you teach, by the way?
I'm not teaching now.
You're not teaching?
Mm-mm.
Are you working now?
I'm still looking at a job, yeah, but I'm teaching afternoon daycare now.
You're teaching at a daycare?
Mm-hmm. For now, few hours.
3 hours a day. It says here that you have a number of children.
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 9 children.
How many?
9.
9?
Mm-hmm.
And how old are they? What's the range?
The oldest one is 17 years and 17 and a half, the oldest one.
And how about the youngest?
1 year.
And do you remember being asked about your opinions regarding police work?
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting you on the spot. This on page 7. Do you remember doing that? And indicating that you had no opinion as to each question that was answered. Do you remember this?
No, I don't remember.
Your questionnaire indicates you have a bachelor's degree.
Yes.
What's your degree in, if I could ask?
I have a Islamic law degree.
It's a what?
I have Islamic law degree, Arabic and Islamic studies degree.
From where'd you go?
Minnesota University.
University of Minnesota.
And also I have a couple of other studies here.
Pardon me?
I have a couple of other studies too.
Tell me about those.
Teaching.
You have a teaching degree.
Yeah, no, yeah. They evaluated here and they said I have to do more in order to complete the degree.
When you filled out this questionnaire, it said you were a full-time teacher. Were you full-time in the summer when you filled this out?
No, when the corona happened, I stopped,
Do you remember filling this out that you were a full-time teacher, though?
When I was fulfilling, I just had in mind the one I was doing before and the afternoon classes. Yeah.
And when you filled it out this summer, you said that the length of the trial may be difficult for you because the job would make it difficult. Do you remember filling that out? But that's no longer the case with you now?
No, I actually, when I left the school job, I started Uber work, and I was thinking about that.
Well, let me ask you this: if you're selected for the jury in this case, the case is going to take a couple weeks. Will you have any income during those 2 weeks to assist your family of 9?
No.
Okay. Will that be a hardship for you not to have any income?
Exactly.
And is anyone going to pay you while you're on the jury if you are selected? I mean,
no.
No. So you're out of significant income. Okay.
Is it?
Which is a hardship on your family. Yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the last question of the questionnaire was that you were asked, do you want to serve as a juror in this case? And you said you weren't sure. Not sure. You remember that?
What did I say? I'm not sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I was referring the same case of which I mentioned earlier. The work, you know. That,
okay.
Yeah. That is. I'm just following the same thing as I mentioned.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
As you see right now, we have a sidebar happening. Right now they're talking about potential juror number 39. The guess is that the defense is probably going to try to ask the judge to strike this person for cause. You heard defense attorney Paul Eng, sort of prompting a potential juror number 39 about him not having financial abilities coming in if he was to sit on the jury, and that would be a financial hardship on his family. Potential juror number 39 says he has 9 children. The oldest is 17, the youngest is 1, and that he English is his second language, Somali is his first. He has been here for 10 years. He learned Somali somewhere else. He learned English somewhere else. He already knew English coming here. You heard Paul Eng sort of ask him about that. Eng said he couldn't understand what he was saying a few times. Asked him to speak a little closer, or a little bit clearer or slower. You heard potential juror number 39 say that he was a teacher. So that's what's happening right now. Right now, both of the teams are talking to the judge. So the defense, the prosecution, and the judge are all on headphones together, having a discussion about this potential juror number 39, and to see if there's any objections, or see if they can push for a strike for cause, or if the defense might have to use a preemptory strike. I'm guessing that that's what the conversation is. So that's where we're at right now. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Nico from Unicorn Riot. We are bringing you live Kim Potter trial. This is day 3. Jury selection has continued now. We have 9 jurors that have been impaneled. Today has featured 0 jurors so far. I remember the first day, I think we had 3 by the morning break or by lunch. Right now we have 0 added to the mix. We did hear a few people be excused earlier. One person because they had a family vacation happening December 20th. That was already purchased. Tickets were already purchased, non-refundable. The judge granted that person to be struck for cause, as well as another person. We'll bring you back in a second.
Yes, oh yes.
A couple more questions. I appreciate your patience.
Okay.
Okay. Going back to that degree from the University of Minnesota, what year was that?
I done on 2016, I think.
2016?
Yeah.
And it's Islamic Studies?
Yes. Okay. Arabic and Islamic studies.
And it was a BA?
Yes.
You know, if you're in the jury room and don't understand something, given your language, and appreciates that English is your second language, are you going to ask the fellow jurors what certain things mean and have them explain them to you?
If I don't understand.
Yeah, if you don't understand something, are you going to have the jurors explain it to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And that would include legal concepts and, you know, all sorts of ideas in the case. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you would rely on your fellow jurors to help you explain what the law is?
Yeah, sometimes.
Because a lot of the terms are not familiar to you. Is that right?
That's true.
Including the presumption of innocence, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not something you use all the time. Or rarely, right?
Yeah.
And proof beyond a reasonable doubt is a concept you don't use all the time, if at all. Fair?
Yes.
May I inquire here?
Your Honor, may I proceed?
Yes, you may, Mr.
Juror 39, thank you for being here. I just have a couple of follow-up questions that I want to ask you about, okay? Is it easier for you to read English and understand it than to listen to it and understand it?
Listening.
Easy to listen to it?
Mm-hmm.
And...
Is that a yes?
Yes, yes, yeah.
See, the court reporter is typing, so we have to have words. What Mr. Ng did not ask you about is the law and who defines the law. Right? So here in court, the judge is like the teacher. Right? The judge tells us what the law is. So if jurors need to understand concepts, legal concepts, the judge gives definitions of them. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
And so if there's a legal concept you don't understand, the judge is going to define those for you. Do you understand?
Yes.
And the judge will not only read those to you, will tell you and will read those instructions to you, but the judge will also give you a written copy of those definitions. So when Mr. Ng was asking you about the burden of proof, the presumption of innocence, the judge is going to give you instructions. He's going to read them and give you written instructions. So if you have to know the meaning of a certain term, you're going to have those instructions from the judge. So knowing that, would you be able to follow the law that the judge gives to you in serving as a juror?
Yes.
And the way I understood what you were saying is you have been doing some teaching before, but the COVID pandemic has affected that somehow? Not teaching as much?
Actually, the school has, I think, closed that department somehow, and it came at right time. I mean, during the COVID-19, and since then, COVID happened, and I was sitting at home.
And so to do that, it sounds like you've done some driving for Uber.
Yes.
And if you're a juror, you'd still be able to do some driving for Uber on the weekends and maybe even a little bit at night.
Well, I only drove, I think, 1 month or 2 months around it. Then, since then, currently, right now, I'm not driving, but I was trying to.
And
because the security-wise, also there was some issues about security, and then I didn't want to take that risk as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not driving right now anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
So it isn't a trial that would.
Yeah, but I'm still looking at job, you know.
Yeah. Still job hunting. Yeah.
Sick, yeah.
And do you know that jurors do get some compensation from the court for being a juror? Some money from the state for being a juror every day?
I don't know.
And I'm not going to mislead you. It's not a lot of money, but it's a little bit of money to help.
Yeah.
Would that help, with supporting your family?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And we expect the trial to last, until maybe December 23rd. Today is December 2nd, so maybe 3 more weeks. Well, and not even starting until next Wednesday. So, from December 8th to December 23rd is roughly 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You think you can make it through that period if you were asked to serve as a juror?
Yeah, but as I said now, I start 2 o'clock until 9 o'clock afternoon class that I'm teaching, daycare.
Tell me the times again.
Currently. The job currently I'm doing is in a daycare kids, so I start 2 o'clock afternoon until 9.
And so you wouldn't be able to go there until you got done here, right? For the weeks that were in trial.
I have to tell them also.
You what? I'm sorry.
I mean, I haven't tell the bosses of that place anything as from now. I mean,
Okay.
so yeah, so I have to tell them.
You would have to tell them,
Mm-hmm.
and because you would be on jury duty, you would not be able to work until you left here at 5 o'clock, let's say.
Okay.
Do you think you could do that?
I will tell them, but I'm not sure because I don't think they have other people for now. So I'm sure they will. But I will tell them.
And you don't know for sure that.
Yeah, I don't know what they will say.
Okay. And it would be for jury duty, right?
Okay.
So you could ask them and see what they would do.
Okay.
And if it were possible, you could still work after you get done here for a few hours at night, right?
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Eng had asked you some questions about your impressions, and you checked somewhat negative and neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And what I understood you to say is that you can't make judgments because you don't know what happened.
Correct.
And so you understand as a juror,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we want, right?
Yes.
We want people over there with
Mm-hmm.
an open mind about what happened.
Okay.
And are you telling us that that's what you would do as a juror, keep an open mind?
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
And you would not make a decision as a juror until
Mhm.
you heard all of the evidence.
Okay.
Would you do that?
Sure. Yes.
Your Honor, can I have just a moment, please? Should we maybe go back? I just want to clarify where we are in the process.
So as you see, what's happening here is the state is now trying to get Juror 39 on their team to be a juror. They're also sort of saying, look, you'll get $20 a day to be on this jury, or whatever minimal amount that they do get for being on the jury. And Frank was like, look, wouldn't that help your family? And potential juror number 39 is like, well, I have a job. I'm like literally teaching from 2 to 9. So we'll see what happens here. One thing I did find interesting, though, is some of the verbiage that they're continuing to use, knowing that, English is a second language, is always sort of like befuddling to me. Even Judge, she asked him a few words that were like, pretty big words. I'm not saying that he doesn't understand it, but if it's your second language, sometimes it's a little harder to understand those bigger words. You haven't even got into that yet, sometimes. So that is one thing that I've been noticing, but we'll see how it goes. Again, there's been 0 jurors that have been impaneled today. We are up to 9 in the process. It has gone pretty quickly. Jury selection started Tuesday. Right now, they're discussing if they can use a strike for cause. When they come back, I'm guessing that they'll get to a morning break shortly, and then they might push lunch to 12:30 or so. I'm guessing the morning break will be after potential juror number 39 is finished being questioned. And after we go to that break, we will bring you back to that presser that we were showing. And we're also going to show a protest outside of Judge Chu's house, prompting the recording of this.
Oh, I know this has gone on for a long time, and I apologize. The reason I think everybody's asking you so many questions is that, we're concerned about whether or not you understand English well enough to sit as a juror, okay? And you told me you speak a number of different languages. I don't think anyone here speaks 2 languages fluently. So I admire you for that. Our concern is, for example, you're probably really fluent in Somali and the other 2 languages that you said you speak. I don't want you to get stricken off this jury unless we really have a concern about you understanding the English language, because it's so important that you understand every single word that is being said. Because this is a criminal case, and all cases are important, but we've got a case here where any juror needs to understand every word that is being spoken. Legal concepts, principles, nobody really, if you haven't served on a jury before and you haven't gone to law school, that's not a problem. But understanding every word spoken is a necessity in order to be able to sit. Would you feel more comfortable not being on this jury, or would you feel comfortable being on this jury, given your understanding of English?
As I said, with the matters of legal-wise, I'm not very much confident in terms, communication. Otherwise, it's fine. It's not a problem. But when you come to the deep words, because you said this is a very critical matter, it's not something that I have to take chances. But
okay.
I really feel like.
Have you been able to understand the words that have been spoken? Okay. So, it's okay if you don't feel comfortable sitting on the jury because English is your second language. That's perfectly okay. On the other hand, if you feel completely comfortable sitting as a juror, given your understanding of the English language, that's okay too. So I need to hear from you.
I'm not very much confident.
Okay.
with my with the terms that I might not understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't feel confident that you would be able to understand everything?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so I take it that because of that, you think it would be best that you not be a juror in this case?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. This questioning went on for a long time, and I appreciate you sitting through all this. I'm going to excuse you as a juror, okay?
Thank you.
And I bet those 9 kids keep you busy.
Thank you.
You have your own daycare,
Okay.
just in your family.
Yes.
All right. Have a wonderful day, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, just for the record, the state objected to a for cause dismissal of this juror, and I think he was honest with me when he said he just doesn't feel confident that he understands the English language enough to sit as a juror. So, did you want to say something, Mr. Frank?
I do, Your Honor. We still object to the court's granting cause. I think what he candidly said is he didn't understand, or he was concerned about not understanding legal concepts. I point to the next juror's questionnaire that says he wants a better definition of beyond a reasonable doubt. Everybody has trouble understanding our legal concepts. And the court expressed an understandable concern about him respond to just simply leading questions. But the court essentially kind of led him into his concern about not understanding the matter and giving him that out to say, I don't understand these legal concepts. That is the bottom line to me, is he expressed concern about understanding legal concepts. That's true of a lot of people, and you're going to give full definitions. What he said at the very beginning of your questioning with him is he's able to communicate okay. And so the man achieved a bachelor's degree at the University of Minnesota and is continuing on to get a teaching certificate. He knows various languages, so he understands what communicating in different languages is all about. So I really, Your Honor, taking the court's time, because I do think it's important to make this record that I don't think he was disqualified for cause from jury service.
Okay. Did you want to respond?
Well, your ruling is consistent with a previous juror, first name All, who had similar language difficulties. So the court has made a consistent decision, and there's no error here.
All right. Okay. I think it's time for our morning break. So let's take 20 minutes. Just to let you know, we've got, that was number 39. So, okay. Zach, is 41 here?
No, so the next one is number 40.
And then 44, right?
44 is also postponed now.
Oh, okay, we've had two postponements.
Which one was that?
41 and 44 have both postponed. So we only have number 40 left. Okay. I think we're still on track to have juror number 7 come in at 1:30.
That's correct, Judge.
Okay. And before that, I'll do the findings on the record. Okay, let's take a break.
All right. That's what you saw today so far in the morning break. Nobody has been chosen. It was interesting seeing the end of that, sort of watching the judge lead potential juror number 39 into saying that he does not understand certain English language proficiency. You heard the state argue against that, saying, well, you sort of let him, and basically, so they struck him for cause. And basically the state was saying, look, he's got bachelor's degrees, he's smart enough, he doesn't really understand what he said. He doesn't understand the legal components of each word, which are very confusing for a lot of people who know English very, very well. So Thank you all for tuning in. This is Nico from Unicorn Riot. We are on morning break. We are going to bring you back over. We're going to show you today, right now, on this morning break, real quick though, a little 3-minute video from a protest outside the judge's house. On November 6th, there was a protest outside of the judge's house, Judge Regina Chu, not her house, out of her residence on the south side of Minneapolis, close to Loring Park. And what people were doing was asking and demanding for transparency. At that point, the videos and audio recordings of this trial were not going to be live. There was numerous motions to make the audio and video live. Judge Regina Chu was going against those motions until that was decided to change. She reversed her decision November 9th officially and allowed audio and video coverage of the trial. She reversed it based on the stance of the widening percentage, or excuse me, the COVID. Basically, COVID is going rampant throughout America, obviously, and throughout the country and throughout the world. But in Minnesota, it's been very, very high. There's a high number of COVID cases, especially comparatively to even last year. And right now, coming into this trial, that was her main focus. She said that they were going to adhere to strict COVID-19 protocols. Again, we have 3 family members from the Daunte Wright family allowed into the courtroom each day. They have an overflow room as well. And there's, I believe, 2 media personnel that are allowed in the courtroom each day as well. So thank you all for tuning in. This is Nico from Unicorn Riot. We're going to bring you over to this protest in front of the judge's house before the ruling was made to allow cameras in the courtroom.
We are demanding accountability, transparency, and justice for Daunte Wright. To get those 3 things, we demand that we get cameras and live streamers in the courtroom. Kim Potter goes on trial the 30th of November. Judge Regina Chu says that there should be no cameras and there will be no live streamers allowed in the courtroom. What are they trying to hide? If they believe that there is going to be justice had in that courtroom, let us see it.
That's right.
Let us watch it. Let us be at home on the couch, chilling, feet up, demanding and praying that we get the justice that Daunte so rightfully deserves.
That's right.
Let us see it. Let us hear it. Let us watch it. Getting the justice that he so rightfully deserves. Because we all know what happened was murder. We all know that Daunte is no longer with us. And we all know that that was not right. So the only way that for justice to be had in that courtroom, the only way for accountability, the only way for transparency is for us to see it, for everyone to see it. This is not something that they can just sweep under the rug. This is not something that they can do in the darkness. This is not something they can do in the shadows. If you have nothing to hide, let us see it. If you believe that's where justice is going to happen, let us see it. Let us see it. Can y'all say that after me? Say, let us see it.
Let us see it.
Let us see it.
Let us see it.
Let us hear it.
Let us hear it.
Daunte Wright.
Daunte Wright. Daunte Wright. Daunte Wright.
Yeah, you can talk to
Daunte Wright. Daunte Wright.
That's who you can talk to. Regina Chu. We demand transparency, we demand accountability, and the way that we can get that is by having cameras in the courtroom, by having live streamers in the courtroom. If they believe that that courtroom will give Daunte Wright justice, then they will give us the accountability. They will show us what happens in that courtroom. Instead of hiding it for themselves, let the world see. Let the world see. If this justice system is supposed to give people justice, then let us see the justice that you are trying to get.
Shut it down! 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 Shut it down!
When I say what do we want, you say justice. What do we want?
Justice!
What do we want?
There you saw a short little clip from a protest that happened outside of the residence of Judge Regina Chu, November 6th. That was a Saturday evening. You saw just a small amount of people, maybe up to a few dozen. Some of the family members of Daunte Wright were there. It made news on the other side of things because one of the people went into the residence, which is like either townhouses or apartment buildings type of thing. And they were outside in the hall, possibly of Regina Chu's residence. So, again, I'll mention, as you saw, it was a very peaceful protest, and people were demanding transparency and having live streamers in the courtroom. And so we will continue to follow what's happening here. As you can see, we are on the morning break. Thankfully, we are also, thankfully, we are able to see this trial happening. All right. What we are going to do real quick is swing you right over to Daunte's birthday party. So Daunte Wright would have been 21 October 27th had he not been killed by Kim Potter. Again, he was killed by Kim Potter. That's why we're here in this trial, watching the trial. She killed him using her gun, service weapon. She said she was trying to use a taser. Give me 1 second. So Kim Potter is facing first and second degree manslaughter charges, and she could face up to about 15 years in prison. We have the Minnesota Attorney General's office. There's a prosecuting team, and she has defense attorneys led by Earl Gray, who's been decades-long police attorney, criminal defense attorney for police. He also, I believe, tried the Geronimo Yanez case. So Geronimo Yanez was the police officer who killed Philando Castile in 2016, and he basically got him acquitted. So that's Earl Gray, who is the head of the defense for manslaughter. So again, Kim Potter is facing first and second degree manslaughter charges. The first degree manslaughter charge was brought to her in September. So check out our website, unicornriot.ninja, for more on the case. We do have a trial page set up. This landing page shows you about the trial, and you can access that from our front page. This has got a little bit of information, and then it's got the articles that we've done on Daunte Wright and similar protests, and then some of the recent videos that we've taken. We'll get into showing some more of those during these breaks. Again, we are on break right now. We're going to swing you over, as I said, to Daunte Wright's birthday party on October 27th. This is a short video, and then we'll be right back with you.
Say his name.
Daunte Wright.
Say his name.
Daunte Wright.
Say his name. Daunte Wright.
Hello, everybody. Today we gather in Brooklyn Center Community Center to celebrate Daunte's 21st birthday. While we're celebrating memories and happy times when we should actually be celebrating him here with us. Unfortunately, Brooklyn Center police failed us, and that's why we're here today celebrating his memory.
I do want to thank everybody for coming out here and showing my family support, because we really do need it. Again, we want to make sure that we get some type of justice for my brother and my sister, because they should never have to view their son, excuse me, y'all. Could y'all spread her real fast? They should never have to come home to see their son like this, as well as that beautiful urn. They don't deserve this. Just support. We really need the community support. And whatever y'all can do, please do. Whatever you can say, please say. My brother and sister should not be going through this. These are some of the most beautiful people in the world, and the children that they have created. My nieces suffering, my nephews suffering. We just ask if we can get some type of justice and continue the support. Say his name!
Daunte Wright!
Say his name!
Daunte Wright!
Say his name!
All right, we're down to 6 minutes left. Sorry about a couple of these little gaffes. Pressing the buttons. So again, that was Daunte Wright's birthday party, October 27th. If you go to our website, we actually have more on that birthday party in this article. Daunte Wright's 21st birthday brings healing and reflection. There's a few videos on there as well. A longer one of the press conference that took place during the specific birthday party, as well as that video you just saw, as well as a video by Brandon Tullock, or a video of spoken word done by Brandon Tullock. You see the rest of our articles. Again, we are a nonprofit 501c3 educational media organization. We cover a lot of topics. Right now you see on your screen a few of the latest pieces from Germany. One of historic Kopi squat. I had wagon plots, something I had never heard about. Wagon plots are like mobile encampments full of autonomous squatters, and they got evicted last month. We got a little special on that. We were talking to some of the folks that were out there. It's contributed by some folks out in Greece. And we also got a lot of coverage of the Unite the Right Charlottesville trial that just happened. As you can see right up here, there's a Unite the Right on trial graphic. You click into that graphic, that'll bring you into all of the special coverage that we provided. I think most of it all is up to date. We have one more day of transcripts, I believe, to update, but I believe it was 19 days of trial. We were live tweeting most of it, so check that out if you want to know more about that. That's so Heather Heyer was killed during the Unite the Right trial in Charlottesville by James Fields. That was a neo-Nazi gathering in Charlottesville, and they were gathering to push for the continuation of the Confederate statue. One second. So also you see Line 3 Resistance, George Floyd Uprising, and Discord leaks graphics. Those are landing pages to get into more coverage. When we're talking about the Discord leaks and the Unite the Right, that is, as I said, it was a rally in August 2017. From that rally, first night, there was a torchlight rally that injured a lot of students. You saw a lot of neo-Nazi activity. And then the second day, is when Heather Heyer was killed. She was killed by a car attack. A car attacked a protest last night. We'll show you that video during lunch before we go down. We're going to cut this stream into two. It'll be the morning section and then the afternoon section. So right before we go down, before lunch break, we will bring you back over. Looks like court is starting in a moment, it looks like. So we're going to bring you back over to court. All right, while we wait. You saw how the camera person hand the camera over to the judge. That's a little automatic setting that they have on. And then they pan back to the Great Seal because they realize it's actually not starting right this second. And so, again, there is one organization, one media outfit that is running the camera pool from inside the court to basically pipe it out. And that's Court TV. And so Court TV is the ones running the cameras. They actually provide, I think, a switched feed, which we're using, and 3 other feeds. 2 of the other feeds don't show as much. Excuse me. The other feeds show different sides of the courtroom. What we have is a switched feed, which Court TV is choosing when and how to switch that. So we have no control over the courtroom camera. Just a heads up on that. Sometimes you'll see them go to sidebar. Sometimes we'll throw up the graphic that explains that a sidebar is happening. But during those times, they shut the audio off. They might put white noise on. And then from there, they speak to each other about some of the happenings and legal wranglings of how they're going to proceed during a specific moment. Now, you really only see, you really only see these sidebars during jury selection. And again, jury selection is happening. We have 9 jurors impaneled. The jury selection goes in a process where they send out a jury questionnaire. That jury questionnaire is looked at, filled out, and then from there, they send it back in, the potential jurors. Then the defense, the state, look at the jury questionnaire. They strike potential jurors before asking them to come in to sit in the pool. Those that are sitting in the pool, they come up to, like, I believe 16th floor, 20th floor. The court case is taking place on the 18th floor, 1856. I personally had the opportunity to be called for jury duty. I did not end up sitting on the jury, but so I have the opportunity to have that experience. And it's basically a few days of your life where you are put into a room with maybe 100 people or so, and little groups of people, 5 to 10 to 15, are called from that room, brought down to different other courtrooms. Here we go with the trial. We're going to be quiet and bring you this until the court decides to go to lunch. Thank you all for tuning in again. This is Unicorn Ride. Check out our website, unicornride.ninja, for more.
Okay. Thanks, Debbie. Please remove your mask. Thank you. Okay, a couple of follow-up questions on your answers to the questionnaire. You stated that you had a somewhat negative general impression of Defendant Kimberly Potter, that you had a somewhat negative general impression of Daunte Wright, and you also expressed some opinions about what Defendant Potter should or should not have done. That's perfectly fine that you have opinions or, general feelings about the case and about the parties involved. But my question is whether or not you can concentrate only on what the evidence is in this case, the testimony of the witnesses and any exhibits admitted into evidence, and base your decision solely on the evidence that's presented in the case and not rely on anything you heard about or thought about before. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. I know this. You filled out this questionnaire quite a long time ago, but there was a question on. The question is this: the defendant, Kimberly Potter, was an officer for the Brooklyn Center Police Department. Is there anything about her employment with the Brooklyn Center Police Department that would prevent you from rendering a fair and impartial verdict in the case? And your answer was previous incidents with BCPD or other police department. Can you elaborate on that answer?
Just if there were any other incidents with Ms. Potter.
Okay. So if there had been,
Yep.
then that might affect your ability to be fair.
Yep.
Okay.
But I don't know of any.
All right. Thank you. Okay. In response to the question on law enforcement, you stated that you're a high school police explorer.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Tell me what you do for that.
Well, that was a long time ago.
When was it?
The 90s.
Okay.
At the time, it was just meetings that we had with the police officers. We run city council packets to the council members at the time, and then we practice in shooting.
Oh, you practice shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you acted as a liaison with the police department
Yep.
in the high school?
Some people were way more involved than I was. I only did it for about 6 months.
Okay. What exactly was your responsibility as a high school police explorer?
Very, very limited. I didn't volunteer for any events. I basically just went to weekly meetings, I believe.
Okay, and what were the weekly meetings about?
I don't know that I could even remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
It was quite a long time ago. All right. You stated that you were accused of a crime. Were you satisfied with the result? Do you think you were treated fairly by the justice system?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any complaints about how the police reacted to that or treated you?
No, I got what I deserved.
Okay. There was a question, do you believe the jury system in the country is a fair system? Why or why not? And one of your comments was, I feel bad for jurors. Can you kind of tell me what you meant by that?
I mean, just my own personal experience. It's not an area that I'm, I've never been a juror before, and looking at it, you have to understand and separate what's going on around you, and it's not an easy position to be in.
Okay, because it's a big decision.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've never served on a jury before?
No.
Okay, here's what I can tell you. I talk to jurors after they reach their verdicts, and they always tell me that even though they were reluctant to serve, they were really glad that they had the opportunity because they learned a lot, and all of them have told me that they've stepped away from jury duty with a renewed respect for a system of justice. So I'm probably not convincing you to look forward to it, but I'm just telling you as a fact, that's what they're telling me. So I know it's something different that a lot of people haven't done before, but are you willing to serve in this case if you're chosen to do so by the parties here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There's a question here. The jury must decide the case solely on the evidence produced in court and the law that the judge instructs, and not because of bias, passion, prejudice, or sympathy. Would you be able to follow this principle of law? And you said, yes, I would try. Can you give me a more definitive answer than that?
You know, I think when I was filling out the questionnaire, I was probably just going through it. It's a lot of information all at once, and so my answer would be yes, I would do what I'm instructed to do.
Okay, thank you. The questionnaire gave you dates that you would be required to serve if selected, and your response was family gatherings and impacts to my children during the holidays. And, you know, that's understandable that that would be a concern that you would have. But would that concern be so overwhelming for you that you wouldn't be able to listen to what was going on in court here?
No, just an inconvenience more than anything.
Yeah. Okay. I know jury duty is inconvenient, and you know, I know around the holidays it's probably a little more of a hardship than usual, but thank you for that. And you also recognize that being sequestered, if you were chosen as a juror, would put extra pressure on your wife and her job expectations to take care of the kids. It'll be harder for her. Yep. I bet she can handle it though, right?
She can.
Okay. It's good of you to think of her though. Okay. In response to the question, do you want to serve as a juror in this case, you marked no, not sure. Do you still feel that way?
I'm happy to serve on the juror. I'm probably more concerned about post-decision and what information about my person will be revealed and any impacts that may have. But that's probably my only hesitation.
Okay. Is there anything about those concerns that makes you feel you can't be fair and impartial?
No.
Okay. So you can base your decision on the evidence and not because of any concerns about your personal safety or the aftermath of any decision?
Yes.
Thank you. Counsel?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Paul Eng. I'm with Earl Gray. Amanda Montgomery, we represent Officer Potter. I have some questions for you too. Touching on that last question that Judge Chu gave you, I mean, is it your concern that if you find that the evidence is not proven and you acquit Officer Potter, are you concerned about your safety or having people who disagree with the verdict harm you? Are you concerned about that?
I think it's regardless of which direction it goes.
Well, why don't you? I guess I don't want to lead you into it. Tell me more about what your concerns are, so I can imagine what they might be, but why don't you help me with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest concern is no matter which direction this takes, there's going to be a large portion of people that aren't going to be happy. And I don't know what information about me individually will be made public record, and based on what you can find on the internet, it's not that hard to find somebody.
Could you talk a little louder?
Sure. It's just not that hard to find information out about people. So the concern I would have there is more of personal safety of my family.
And under what circumstances would you have a greater concern for the safety of your family?
I'm going to check, Your Honor. You brought the form question.
Do you want to rephrase that?
Well, what are your concerns about the safety of your family in light of your verdict?
Probably more things that could happen to my house, things that could happen to my kids. Those, I mean, I don't know if they're rational or not. They're concerns that, it's not that hard to find information, and I don't know what's going to be shared publicly about jurors after the case is done.
And who would you be concerned about? What group or individuals would you be concerned about vis-a-vis your family and your house?
I'm going to check, Your Honor, is asked and answered.
The objection is overruled.
Who would you? Let me rephrase it so you can. Who would you be concerned about? I mean, give us a little bit more about that. You're concerned about your safety, your house, your kids, but what individuals or groups would you be concerned about?
Either a group on the extremes of both sides. Either people that are happy for the decision or people that aren't happy for the decision. I mean, I don't have anybody in mind, but I wouldn't want anybody targeting me.
Would one side or the other have a greater concern for you, or is it both sides?
Both sides.
Okay. Well, you're anonymous, of course, here.
Here, yeah.
But there are ways, the media and the internet is ubiquitous now, and our assurance to you is that you'll be anonymous, but there's always an effort after the trial to find out who the jurors were. And it's up to the court and their motions and so forth. But, would that be a concern for you that would prevent you from serving on the jury? I mean, is it a legitimate, legitimate's not the right word, is it a sincere concern that you have that would be make it difficult for you to be a juror in this case? That's the question.
I'm going to check, Your Honor, just ask if you
Okay, well, he already answered it.
Well, let me back up. Tell us what you do for a living. I saw the one line here, but I couldn't quite tell what it was. If you'd explore that with me for a second.
Sure. I work in IT, information security. Been in that field for 20 plus years. Kind of do a random smattering of different consulting type work in that field.
Can you explain that a little bit for me? And don't tell us who you work for or anything like that. Just give me a sense of what you do every day.
Yeah, today I lead a group of people that is responsible for managing data for a large organization based out of the Twin Cities. So it's protecting that data, making sure that the data is available, searchable.
How'd you get into the field?
Luck. No, I got into it because so originally I went to school to be a cop. Decided that wasn't the right field for me. Then I went to go be a teacher. Realized that wasn't the field for me. So then I went to computers because they don't talk back. And ended up in that field. I've bounced around different industries and different levels of roles, and about six months ago took this job.
Was your previous employment similar skill set?
Yep. Yep.
When did you want to be a cop? Was that in relation to your Explorer activities back in high school?
It was. Yep.
Where was the Explorer unit, by the way?
Bloomington.
The police department.
Bloomington.
Okay. Did you go to school and get a degree in criminal justice then?
Nope, I changed my mind before I even got to college.
And what caused you to change your mind?
Afraid that I'd end up having to use my gun.
And that fear caused you just to change your mind totally?
Yes.
You filled out a very lengthy questionnaire. And I had some. I'm not going to go over each of your questions, but or answers, I should say. But I do want to ask you some questions about it. So let me go through these with you. I'll try to click it along.
Okay.
But we all read these things, and then we have questions about it. So only a few questions, but I want to go through these. You have a narrative on page 3 of all the details that you remember. And I wanted to ask you about a couple things. You say that that Mr. Wright was pulled over for a broken taillight, something minor. New policeman guy was not controlling situation. What do you mean by controlling?
It didn't look like the situation was being handled where controlling it. I mean, normally when I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, it didn't appear that the officer was in charge, and so it looked like he was stepping back into the car, and didn't to me look like it was being a situation that was controlled.
Okay. So that's what you meant by that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you say a moment later, Mrs. Potter tried to take control of the situation and moved the new policeman out of the way. Do you remember saying that?
I do.
Okay. You also mentioned that she yelled, "Taser, taser, taser."
I do.
And then the next sentence I want to ask you about, Mrs. Potter, quotes, realized, end of quotes, she used the gun and backed up. You used the quotations around realize. Why did you do that? Just curious.
There was either something that I saw in the video or just the body language that made a pause.
The next page, you talk about somewhat negative in your impression of Officer Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a somewhat negative impression of her today as you sit here?
I have it hasn't changed. I mean, I don't know any more than I knew when I filled out the questionnaire.
Well, the court asked you whether you would presume her innocent, give her a clean slate. I mean, the question I have for you is, that, given the fact that she's presumed innocent, does that somewhat negative impression get canceled out for this trial? Or is that something that would stay with you?
It would have to be eliminated. I mean, I would start with an impartial.
You're willing to eliminate it?
Yep.
Okay. You also talk about in this somewhat negative paragraph that she should have had, quotes, enough, quotes, muscle memory if what side her taser is on, and feel of that taser. What do you mean by muscle memory, and why did you say this? And give us your description of muscle memory for us.
It's kind of like knowing which foot uses the gas and which uses the brake. Yeah. And if I understand right, she's been an officer in the force for a long time. Mm-hmm. And tasers they're not a new tool. So I would assume that they would know which side of their body they're talking about.
Well, you realize for this case you can't make any assumptions. You just have to listen to the evidence.
Yep, I understand that.
And one of the questions will be why this happened, and that's for you to decide. You understand that?
I understand.
And so your understanding of muscle memory has to be from the testimony if it comes in that way. Do you understand? You're good to go with that?
Yep.
And you also say for Mr. Wright, you're somewhat negative because he made a bad decision. And what do you mean by making a bad decision?
Again, just based on the video that I saw, tried to get back in his car.
And you also said he was a familiar name to police.
That's what I remember hearing.
Okay. But again, we're going to start over for the trial, of course.
Yep.
Okay. Then down on 6, I'm flipping along here. The question is, have you ever talked about Daunte Wright with your family and friends? You say yes, only to close family. and it's about question number 2, which is the muscle memory question. Criticized of both sides, but sad how black people are treated, remains your answer.
Yes.
So you're willing to be critical of both sides?
Yes.
Well, then Judge Chu asked you about question 10. You say, I would have a hard time if the law was interpreted in a way I didn't agree with, which is, you realize that the judge, of course, is the law, but I mean, tell me again what you meant by that.
Sometimes the law is not common sense to me as an individual.
Can you give me an example?
If I'm driving 36 and the speed limit is 35 and I get a ticket for going 36.
Has that happened to you?
Not that one, no. I've gotten a ticket for loud motorcycle pipes, and it's a subjective statement. And so there are scenarios where, you know, I need more clarity on how to interpret common sense into the law.
It sounds like you've had some bad experiences with the police, or negative experiences, or experiences that you didn't enjoy anyway. Can you amplify that for me if I'm right?
I wouldn't say negative experiences, but it's never enjoyable getting pulled over.
How often does that happen to you?
A couple times in the last 10 years.
Motorcycle?
Yeah, actually.
Both for loud pipes?
No, almost for not having a helmet on in another state.
Then there was a part of the questionnaire on page 7, and I realize it's been a while since you answered this, so let me lead you through it and ask you a couple of questions about it. You say there's one question, the police in my community make me feel safe, and you strongly agree?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then, but on the other hand, because law enforcement officers have such dangerous jobs, it's not right to second guess decisions they make while on duty, and you strongly disagree. Do you remember that one?
I don't remember that one, no.
Would you stay with your answer? Let me read it to you again because it's kind of confusing the way this is worded. The statement was, because law enforcement officials have such dangerous jobs, it is not right to second guess decisions they make while on duty. And you strongly disagree.
So this is where I need a little help in understanding what the context of the question is. I don't believe that anybody is allowed to, I mean, I believe everybody should have their information reviewed. If that makes sense.
And how about this one? Police in this country treat white people and black people equally, and you strongly disagree.
Correct.
Okay, here's the question I have for you. Officer Potter is white. Mr. Wright, as you know, is black. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be a factor for you in deciding whether her guilt or non-guilt is proven?
No.
That's something that's not an issue for you in this case?
No.
You're talking about general societal issues on this one?
Correct.
And you still have a pistol or a shotgun?
I have a shotgun.
Okay. You a hunter?
I haven't used it in probably 20 years.
You got it at home though still?
Yep.
Okay. And moving along here, and I almost got through this, but on question 18, page 9, you have a somewhat favorable impression of Black Lives Matter. You said important for awareness, but I don't see change from it. You gonna stay with that answer?
Yes.
You want to explain that to me a little bit?
I think anything in today's world takes generations to change. And so I do think it's an important awareness. I just haven't seen any tangible outcome from it yet.
The next question was how favorable or unfavorable of Blue Lives Matter are you? And you're somewhat favorable.
Yeah, I think, again, the other side of the coin is they have a risky job. It's not that, trying not to take the extremes, I guess is what I'm getting at.
And that's what you'll do here, too.
Correct, again.
You know, I don't want to dwell on this, but you indicated you have some minor crimes in your past. Are these involving yourself?
Yes.
Are they misdemeanor type offenses, or well, how old are they? How long ago was it? And that may answer my question.
I got arrested for a DWI, and
We'll skip that. Any other ones?
Nope.
And getting towards the end, do you believe our criminal justice system works? And you say it's not a system for reform, rather than punishment. It can be a cycle that is hard to get out of. Is that similar to you? Is that a sentiment that you kind of expressed about 2 minutes ago to me?
Yeah, it's a cycle.
You're kind of saying the same thing?
Yep.
Okay. And then at page 13, you say, I need a better answer in reasonable doubt that I can understand and agree with. Of course, the judge will give you the definition. You agree to follow that?
Yes.
No problems there.
No.
Judge Chu touched on your family obligations, and you're still good to go.
Yes.
Anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
I don't think so.
Can you give, the bottom line is, for us, is that can you give Officer Potter a fair shake here?
Yes.
Face her at the end of the day and say, I was fair to you.
Yes.
Well, thanks a lot for talking to me. We pass the juror.
The state may proceed.
You're going to stay with pass the juror.
Pardon?
We pass the juror.
Okay. All right. You are going to be on our jury, okay? So, as I stated before, our best estimate is that we're going to start on December 8th. We might start earlier. We don't know at this point. But you'll be getting a call from the jury office later on when we have a definite date. And they'll tell you when to report, where to report, and the time.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Okay, Counsel, let's talk a little bit about the afternoon jurors. There have been jurors that have requested postponement. Has 41, is he or she still on?
41 is postponed.
Okay, 41 is out. 43 is out. Is 44 still on?
44 is postponed.
Okay. So we'll start with 46, 47, 48.
47 is postponed as well.
Oh, okay, thank you. You're getting more up-to-date information than we are. Okay, so we'll start with 45, 48.
No, 46.
46, 48.
51. 51, 52, 55, and then 57.
Okay. All right, that's the afternoon. Okay, Council, have a great lunch, and we'll reconvene at 1:30.
Well, as you just saw, thank you. That is the end of the morning session. They threw up the color bars right at the end. It was like, oh my God, they cut the feed that quick? No, they'll be back at 1:30. Let me pull up the right little snippet on here. When they come back, we will see. Let's make this resume after the lunch break. We will be on a new feed, and we will be back about we'll say 20 or so, maybe 1:15. And so what we will talk about real quick right now, as you can see, the timer has been updated. We'll be back in 1 hour and 20 minutes for court, 23 minutes for court. What we just saw, though, is the 10th juror getting paneled. That 10th juror was sounding like a Caucasian man who was going to be a cop. He wanted to be a police officer when he was a child, it seems like. He might have grown up down around Bloomington area. And he decided to not be a cop because he did not want to shoot someone, and because he moved into IT because computers don't talk back. So there was a lot of interesting exchanges that were happening during that last juror. Personally, I missed what number juror he was. I believe somebody has it in the chat. Potential juror number 40, I believe that might have been. So he is the 10th juror sat. So a quick thought, real quick. I believe there is 3 people of color on the jury right now as we sit. So that is 7 people that are white. Hennepin County, where this where this trial is taking place, is about 74% white. So that's sort of on par with the demographics of the area. Brooklyn Center, however, where Daunte Wright was from and killed, is up in the 60s of percentage of black population. It's not all black American, but it's the black population is the majority, along with Asian and I think Hispanic in Brooklyn Center. So, if you're trying to get a jury of your peers, of Daunte Wright's peers, that's not going to happen, doesn't seem. But trying to get a jury of Kim Potter's peers, that may happen. So Kim Potter is charged with first and second degree manslaughter and faces up to 15 years in prison. We're going to show you 2 videos before we go down. We're going to show you the rest of, you know what? We're just going to show you 1 video before we go down. We're going to show you the extended car attack video. Yesterday there was a protest, and then there was a car attack on the protest. And we're going to show you that, and then we're going to go down with the stream until 1:30 Central. 1 second. So once we play this, I'll just give some preface to this. Trigger warning, content advisory for the following scene. There will be about 1 minute of sort of a car attack, violence against protesters in downtown Minneapolis 2 days ago, after the first day of jury selection was finished in the Kim Potter trial. People had gathered at 4 p.m. outside of the Government Center on 7th Street, and speakers were speaking. Barricades were blocking the street. Different cars were blocking the street. Once the speakers were done and the crowd was about to move onto a march, a car drove around the barricades, up over the sidewalk, onto the sidewalk, around that, into the street, and proceeded to drive through the crowd. There was a few people who jumped on the hoods, tried to stop him, tried to prevent injuries from happening to others. That seemed to save a lot of people. There was Deanna Marie, who was just killed in a car attack 5-6 months ago in Minneapolis on the south side, while she was protesting Winston Smith's death by police, which happened 2 months after Daunte Wright was killed. He was killed by the federal task force on the south side of uptown Minneapolis. Now, when we're looking at this case, we had another car attack 2 days ago, as was just mentioned. Nicholas Kraus, the person who killed Deanna Marie in June, is facing, I believe, murder charges, at least manslaughter charges. I'd have to look that up again. We do have a special on that on our website. Go to unicornride.ninja for that. He has already appeared in court once, I believe. He is downtown at the jail. Deanna Marie is dead now. Nobody died in the car attack. Nobody was seriously injured in the car attack that just happened 2 days ago. There was one person, however, who has possibly a broken wrist that might require surgery. There was quite a few other people who had smaller injuries, and a lot of people who were emotionally traumatized by that action. As, again, we mentioned earlier, Heather Heyer being killed in 2017. Car attacks continually happen in Minneapolis. There's been at least a dozen car attacks since 2014, when the movement for Black Lives started to draw attention to white supremacy and to the killing of black folks across the country. And you saw a backlash from counter-protesters, or from white folks and from other people in the community who did not like people taking up their space on the roadways. There's the protesters claim there's a First Amendment right to protest. The citizenry, some of the citizenry who attacks these protesters, claim that it's their right to have an unimpeded roadway. So Nicholas Kraus is in jail. The person who did drive into these folks is not in jail, from my understanding. We're going to play that attack video. It is, again, content warning, 1 minute of violence, and then there's people talking about that violence. So again, content warning for that. We'll play that, and then we will be back for quick words before we bring you down and take you out to lunch. So thank you all for tuning in. This is Nico from Unicorn Riot, and continue to stay with us. If you want to see a couple little videos, if you don't want to see the car attack video, please do not watch. Here's a candle for a candle of heart, and you see it's adorned by a bunch of the images made by a local artist of Daunte Wright. That building in the distance. Here goes a car coming close to the crowd. The building in the distance is the Hennepin County Government Center. Here goes a car going through the crowd. Switch in a minute. So it doesn't look like anybody was hurt. We'll come back over here. Again, that was a car that just drove through the crowd here, the Government Center. The driver is now taking a left down 5th Street. He was able to sit at the light and sort of escape through there. And it looks like everybody's okay from what we could hear and see. They had cars blocking, but I'm not sure what happened there. but that's literally been an issue here in Minneapolis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Allen. I'm with Justice
and that's why
Frontline
people
Aid.
use cars to
here today.
block people.
First of all, I hope to make sure everybody's okay. If you haven't
Somebody
or
was
you
just
haven't
killed
been
a few
checked on
months ago.
already,
Deanna
please
Marie.
make sure you reach out to someone in a yellow vest. We'll get you to a medic, and we will get you
Justice
assessed
Frontline Aid.
and situated. The plan is still to move. We will not let this distract us. We will not let this dissuade us. That is the plan. I can understand that there is some fear with that. But allow me to let you know that you have a bunch of people here that are determined to make sure you are safe throughout this entire experience. Anybody who is willing to be up in the front, we're going to need at least one more car up in the front. He drove up on the sidewalk, which is why if we are going to be moving, it is going to be easier for us to be in the street. It is actually safer for you at this point to be on the street because that's what the thought process is. I'll just drive up on the sidewalk. So please, we have this locked down. Do not let this dissuade you because this is the kind of stuff they're trying to do. We got his plates, we got his description, he ain't going nowhere, he's not getting far, he's already hit a bunch of people, so that's not how this night ends. How this night ends is with all of us taking care of each other, all right? We already lost one with Deanna Marie. We're not gonna let that happen again, I promise you that. I promise you that. We are not gonna let that happen again. So let's get in the street, let's get ready to move, let's get ready to march, let's get together. Let's get together, let's get strong. This is for Daunte.
We just had a car go through the crowd. This is the Hennepin County Government Center behind us, and folks have gathered out here at the Hennepin County Government Center after the first day of jury selection for the Kim Potter trial for manslaughter for killing Daunte Wright, 20-year-old unarmed Daunte Wright during a traffic stop. You see the cars right here are sort of moving up. These are cars put together by the protesters. A lot of the marshals have been trying to make sure that the place continues to stay safe from car attacks. Well, a car attack just happened. There was a car that drove up onto the sidewalk around the cars and worked its way through the crowd, hitting numerous people. It seems like there's been no serious injuries. There's medics out here, there's marshals out here. I guess his car has been reported to the authorities. Again, we've had numerous car attacks here in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, and it's a continuation throughout the country. Since movement for Black Lives has started, counter protesters or counter people in the population have used their cars as weapons to attack the crowds. So that's what we just saw here. You were there when Deanna Marie was killed in a car attack a few months ago. Exactly. And then there was a car attack that just happened here. What is that? How does that make you feel?
Every time we protesting for something that's serious, it's always a semi or a car attack because they know that the truth is getting spilled all over the city and they want to do everything to cover it up. So every time they see us, Black Lives Matter outside making things to awareness, they try to bring something to cover it all up or to get us in fear. So they need to realize that we're going to make racism afraid again, but at the end of the day, you know, we ain't gonna go home. We're gonna be out here all night until we get the right verdict. We ain't gonna go for that manslaughter. We're going for straight murder. Because we knew the difference between the taser and the Glock.
Daunte don't get it! Daunte don't get it! Daunte don't get it! Daunte don't get it!
I'm gonna just take the opportunity while I have the mic. I promise I won't hog it. I just want to say I'm happy that everyone here is okay physically. I know mentally it's going to take a toll, and I know emotionally we're already going through a lot. I want to give my hearts out to every one of you. I want you to give your hearts out to everyone else here today. For people who aren't here, just know that we are stronger in numbers. So if you aren't here but you physically can be, please come. If you're here now and feel that you mentally cannot come back, I understand. Do what you need to do. Keep yourself safe. We will do our best to keep everyone safe. That's what we are here for. Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
But the fact of the matter is, they are always going to try to find a way to fuck with us. They are always going to try to find a way to hold us down, to make it seem like we're the bad guys, to make it seem like we're the criminals, when some guy who could have just went the fuck around or waited a little bit he just decided to drive through people as if he's better than every single one of you, as if why we are out here, it doesn't even matter to him. And I need you to realize that the systems that we have in place are not only going to kill a 20-year-old black man, then they're going to say that it was a mistake, even though it's no mistake that his community is over-policed. It's no mistake that he was pulled over that day, that he was more likely to be pulled over that day for some bullshit than his white counterparts. That is no mistake. Don't let them try to cover this up as a mistake. But not only will the system then say it's a mistake, the system will get the National Guard, state troopers, all of these people to protect a fucking building, to protect a police precinct, to protect downtown, to protect the government center, to protect a courthouse, a jail. They will protect those buildings more than they will protect any black life, and more than they will protect any life out here that is fighting for justice for black lives. That's the reality of the situation. The only people that are going to protect you and keep you safe are here with you right now. Because if these police officers, if the systems are supposed to keep us safe, they would make sure that dude who drove through here gets held accountable, who he's gonna face some punishment. But we know that you can go into a protest, kill people, and go home and not commit a single crime, allegedly. Right, so that's the system that we're up against. I just want you to know that I give my heart out to each and every one of you. If you can come back, please do. If you can bring people, please do. But keep Daunte Wright and Daunte's family in mind. Because yes, we are going through it, but they are the ones who are really going through it. Keep black, brown, indigenous, keep those lives in mind, because those are the ones that are going through it more so. I'm not saying that white people don't have feelings, but we gonna feel this shit a lot more, okay? We are gonna feel this shit. They hate us that fucking much. He didn't care who any of you were. It could have been an all-white crowd. He would drive through that crowd because he doesn't give a fuck. Your thing says Black Lives Matter. He said, fuck that, I'm driving through it. I matter more than any black life that they could be fighting for. And that's what we're up against. So I appreciate you. All power to the people. I'm gonna hand it back.
All right, Brandon!
All right. What you just saw, thank you all for tuning in to Unicorn Riot. This is Nico. What you just saw was a short snippet, not a short snippet, about a 10-minute video of the car attack that took place Tuesday. Again, there was no serious injuries. There was one person at least who was left with a likely broken wrist that may require surgery. Again, Deanna Marie was just killed 6 months ago. You saw us talk to Tony in the middle of that video. Tony had witnessed Deanna Marie be killed by the car attack uptown, and actually had held the perpetrator, the murderer, Nicholas Krause, who some locally are calling a domestic terrorist, held him and turned him over to the police. So we're going to show you one video before we go out for lunch. And at the end of the last video that you were just watching was a local activist, artist, organizer, Brandon Tullock. And we're going to show maybe a 5-minute spoken word piece. Daunte Wright would have turned 21 this last October. On October 27th, we're going to show a celebration event spoken word piece that Brandon did after he heard that he created this spoken word piece after he heard of Daunte Wright being killed. And then he performed that spoken word piece on October 27th last month, and in a couple of days. It's now December. So again, we're going to show this one, and then we'll bring you down and go away till the lunch. The lunch will come at 1:30. It sounds like they may have only had one person coming in for the afternoon, and I am not sure what is going on with that, but I do know that they were saying that a few of the other potential jurors that were supposed to come in had postponed. And so unsure if there's only one more person in the jury pool today for them to question, or if there will be more. Being that court is at 1:30, that is when the person who was left was supposed to show up to the courthouse, or to be pulled into, jury duty into the courtroom. And so we'll see if more will join them. They do, again, they have this sort of extensive numbered pool to choose from, but they have sectioned those out, and they're not all in the courthouse because of COVID. And so in normal times without COVID, folks would all be in the same room, and they would have enough to pull in all these times. Again, without COVID, so we're talking about COVID, Daunte Wright was pulled over in April 2021 in the middle of this pandemic, and Brooklyn Center police were under orders to not have, you see the court video just went out again, now it's back. During the COVID pandemic, multiple police agencies across the country were told to not bring in people for small or minor infractions, and to not even pull over people, and not even try to ticket people. If they were going to do smaller infractions, just ticket them and release them. And you look at George Floyd, which was basically over a fake $20 bill, and they killed him on their way to bring him in over a fake $20 bill, which is again against policy at the time. Daunte Wright pulled over against policy at the time to bring him in. You have his address, you have that he was on a warrant, yes, but they also have the acknowledgement, the policy to not bring in people during the coronavirus. So we'll see what happens coming up in this next afternoon. We do have one person in panel today. It was sounded like a Caucasian man who wanted to be a police officer when he was a child, didn't want to be a police officer as he became an adult, said he could view the trial without bias and let the facts presented to him, or the evidence presented to him, dictate how he maneuvers through trial. So we will show you Brandon Tulloch's video. This is a spoken word piece. There is a cuss word. Check, just if you're around some youth and you don't want them to hear it, check your audio. But there's, I think, a few cuss words. So this is Brandon Tulloch on October 27th. After this, we'll bring you right back, do a quick outro, and then we'll be back for lunch at 1:30.
This piece is in honor of Daunte Wright. And this is basically the summation of how I felt driving home April 11th, tears in my eyes, looking in my rearview mirror and just at a loss for words. So I guess I just kind of wrote it down. So I'll get into this in a second. Look me in my fucking eyes. And yeah, I cursed, because I don't know what else to do. Because every time I turn on the TV, it's another nigga dying on the news. And don't you dare bring up Chicago, St. Louis, LA, North Minneapolis, because those murders hurt me too. You say, what about black on black? So you admit black death should be a crime to you. But when a cop pulls the trigger, y'all act like it's what they're paid to do, like it's in their job description. Like since their gang is funded by tax dollars, it's different. Like white on white crime and hate crimes and lynchings are non-existent, y'all just don't want to listen. Look me in my fucking eyes. Can you see the tears? Can you see the pain? Can you see all the names that are ingrained in my brain? Because no matter how hard I fight, I feel like everything's still the same. I can't go a day, a minute celebrating what I think may be a victory. Anytime I think there's progress, one of y'all go on a killing spree. I can't help but think it's only a matter of time before y'all end up killing me. Look me in my eyes. Tell me what you see. You think I'm lying when I explain how it feels to be me? You can't disagree with me when all I do is tell you my reality. My experience is mine, yet you want to debate if it's actuality. You ain't walking in my shoes, but shit, you shouldn't have to be. When I tell you what it is, just listen, instead of throwing your own opinions back at me.
You think my fear is irrational every time I see them flashing lights. But I gotta do what I gotta do to make it to another night. And all I got is fight or flight. And we've been fighting for hundreds of years, so running is all I got left. But look what white folks did to him on Arbery. Look what the police did to Daunte Wright. Y'all say his fear is irrational, but they're the ones who took his life. So his fear of being murdered by the police should be justified, right? But cops fear for their safety too. But somehow that ain't an issue. Well, now, how do I know if they can tell the difference between a gun and a taser that they're issued? Just comply, just comply, just comply. But there's no way to count all the ways a nigga in the system can die. Because no matter what happens, the police can always lie. Shit, we have to protest for them to release the footage that they hide, and all the reports can easily be falsified. Do you know what happens to black bodies in police custody? Hardell Sherrill does. So does Sandra Bland. Eric Larry knows that they can torture you uninterruptedly. Maybe Khalif Browder can help you understand why I'm not following no police commands, because I'll be damned. Look into my eyes. Do you see yourself being killed every time you scroll through your timeline? Because I do. Can you see the footage constantly replaying on my mind? I can't avoid it even if I tried to. Look at my eyes. Did they tell you I haven't gotten a full night's sleep since I don't even know when? Can you see that when I look at pictures of me from a year ago, it's like I don't even know them? Maybe you can't see it. Now, maybe my eyes are no longer windows into my reality. Maybe now they're mirrors. So now when you look into mine, all it does is show you your reality even clearer. Yeah, see, the next time the cops kill somebody, and I'm right up at the front of the police line, and I feel myself tearing up just like I do each time, just realize, as everybody cries, as I stand a few feet from where another black body lies, that is no question why all the cops on the other side will never, ever, ever look me in my fucking eyes.
That was amazing. Loved it.
Thank you all for tuning in. So far, again, we have, I believe, 10 jurors selected. Juror number 2, 7, 9. Juror number 17, 19, 21, 22, 26. And then juror number 40, I believe. 2 Asian women, 1 black woman, and the rest are white. As we move into the rest of today, somebody in the chat had it totally right. Thank you for providing that information. The judge totally did tell us. Oh, nice. We have somebody also in the Facebook chat also telling us what number of the jurors have literally writing it out. 2, 6, 7, 11, 17, 19, 21, 22, 26, and 40. And Terrell, thank you for also including that the judge did say that there was multiple people left for this afternoon session. I had mistakenly said that there might only be 1 person left, and I believe that Terrell is probably... I believe Terrell is right that there's multiple people that are left in this lunch break, after this lunch break. So we will see what happens and transpires. Continue to follow us at unicornriot.ninja. Continue to support us. We'll be on Twitter, we'll be on YouTube, and we'll be on Facebook. We'll be back at 1:30, you all. Take care.